Hey everybody, welcome to episode 4 of that Scale RC Show podcast. This is Jeremy Kendall along with your host
Adam Dean.
Adam Dean. What'd you do this last weekend?
Oh, this last weekend was actually a kind of quiet weekend. What did I do? Oh, I went to Monster Jam. That's what I did.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I almost forgot. yeah,
That was
uh,
pretty cool.
yeah, I went to Monster Jam. It's been a while since I've been to an actual monster truck event. Growing up, monster trucks were always like a big thing. I always enjoyed going to monster trucks and or just watching them on TV. And then it's funny, like anything, watching them progress and to see what happens and like everything that's changed is just like, and it to me it just blows my mind because it's like back in the day, freestyle, them just jumping over something, landing on a car, doing something like that, or doing a donut and rolling over was like a big deal, like, oh, okay, they rolled over, oh no, get the tractor out, that kind of thing. Now they're
Yeah,
now they're doing backflips.
it's so gnarly. Like
I
it's
mean,
it's elevated to a whole new level.
and that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, look at it. It's like, seriously, it's like you're taking like a. I mean, for those things, they got to weigh well over. I don't even want to know. I don't even know. Like what, 2, 3 ton, and they're making them
I
do.
would think, I mean,
I mean, because think about it. Your average pickup truck isn't even a ton, and
yeah.
you got a full metal subframe. You got what else? You got the big old tires. I mean, each tire's got to weigh a couple thousand pounds easily.
Oh, you would think. I mean, those things are just massive, and honestly, they don't break as much as you think they should.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like some of the recoveries that I've seen some pretty incredible saves. Where they're like just
Yeah.
awesome throttle control and landing back on their wheels and stuff. It's
Oh yeah.
pretty neat. I'm surprised. Well, I don't know. I mean, like, RC monster trucks are huge, but I think the scale monster truck market is a lot smaller because it was kind of a bummer to see Axial drop the SMT10, but at the same time, I mean, I get it because there's probably not that many people into them, and
Mhm.
it's kind of a brittle vehicle for a monster truck, anyways. So I don't
Well,
know. I'm sad to see it go.
honestly, I have two SMT10s. One of them has been converted into somewhat of a mud truck, and then the other one is actually still a monster truck. But it's just one of those things. I switched out from the Axial stock tires and went to, I think it was the Proline Destroyers.
Yeah, it sounds right.
I think the tires are the Destroyers, and I forget what the wheels are called. But anywho, I put those on there, and I remember the first time out on CKRC's track because I was just like goofing off, and I'm like, oh, I want to see what this thing can do. First little jump I hit, I landed. I'm not kidding. The tire bounces and flies off. I'm going, are you kidding me? So I go
That's a
and
lot of leverage.
I go and pick up the truck, and I'm going like, okay, well, let's, what's the deal? Like, what's going on? So I look, and it snapped right at the front universal, like right at the threaded part where the threaded part begins. It just
Oh
snapped,
wow.
sheared it clean off, and I'm like, wow, this is ridiculous. So we put in a new set of Vanquish ones, I believe, and then because that's what Jason had on the wall, put it all back together, took it back out. Maybe two more laps around, we jumped it, and it landed kind of awkward on the back, and it bent the back. Like, I mean, you were watching that tire was going like wobbling, like whoa, 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 and it was just like,
Oh jeez.
really? So then we took that off. And went with some Vanquish rears, and I put it all back together. And after that trip, as soon as I got back home, I took the Proline tires off and put the BKTs back on because those other ones were just so wide and massive that it just broke it. It just destroyed everything. I mean, there's a reason why they call those tires the Destroyer. They destroy your they destroy your rig. So I mean, it's just like, ugh. Yeah, it was a lot. So,
Yeah, that's a lot of leverage and force out there on the end of that axle with those bigger tires.
oh yeah. So,
Like a lot. Yeah, I think if you just went nuts and dropped about $600 in all metal everything for one of those, and you could beat on it pretty good. But I don't know. I did like the scale aspect
oh
of it. I
yeah.
thought that was kind of cool. I mean, that's what kind of like has driven me to purchase just about anything really this last year. Has been like it's kind of scale looking. So
Oh yeah.
I thought that was something that was kind of cool, but again, just a really small select group of people that are interested in that sort of thing compared to the overall monster truck market. Like
Yeah,
the guys
and
that buy the X Maxes.
yeah, and see, and then I guess that's the other thing that kind of is hard too, is because, you got, like you said, the market's not that big for it. Personally, which bummed me out, they first discontinued the Max D version, which personally I liked getting the Max D version better than the Gravedigger, because the Gravedigger comes with that neon green frame. So
Oh yeah.
unless you're going with like Gravedigger theme or like Monster Energy theme, the
Mm-hmm.
green is hard to pull off. So if you got the Max D,
Yeah.
it came with a black frame, and you're able to make it into, you can almost make it into anything. So,
Yeah.
but I have one. I have one of each. The only thing I regret doing now, but it was kind of a cool story. After I got my first monster truck from Jason at CKRC, I took I pulled it out in the driveway and I was playing around with it actually up in Auburn because we had just gotten back from Reno, and the neighbor kid up there was like, he's into RC, but he doesn't have like crawlers and stuff. He's kind of got like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
bashers, and he
Yeah.
just really liked that body. He's like, dude, that body's cool. Can I, like? And I said, well, I don't plan on using it, so if you want it, here you go. So I gave it to him, and that's the only thing I kind of like regret, because it's like, oh well, now that body's gone, and I'll probably never get one again. But oh well.
Yeah, I
That's,
think I ended up selling the one I had on eBay. It's you can dye that green plastic, but I mean that's a lot of disassembly and a
yeah,
lot of work for most people.
yeah, and
It seems
that's
like
and that's actually the one that I turned into my mud truck, is my Gravedigger. So I have the Gravedigger body. It's just sitting on the shelf because I'm a huge Gravedigger fan. So I'm not going to get rid of that body. But
right.
I turned that one into the mud truck, and I left the green just because the color scheme I went on that truck is black with a little bit of silver and white, so the green flows with it. So I just left it.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks fine. But and I forget. Oh, I got rid of those tires and wheels because I was going mud truck. So I switched over to the Proline boggers, the 1.9 boggers, which are like huge. So if anybody hasn't run
Yeah.
the Proline boggers yet, they're huge. So they're like as tall as a 2.2, but the rim size is a 1.9. So I'm running that. Excuse me, with a uh, Parma. I call it a two-door Chevy Tahoe because that's what it looks like to me. But
Mm-hmm.
they call it the Scalar. Is actually what they call, no, the Scale Truck or Scalar Truck or something like that. They call it something because they don't have the licensing on it, but it looks just like a two-door Tahoe, like
Oh,
90s
that's
two-door
cool.
Tahoe. So Um, yeah, it's a pretty cool little truck. I haven't completely finished it out. I need to get better electronics because it just has the stock in there right now, which for a mud truck flinging mud is not enough. But
Yeah. No, exactly.
yeah,
That's when you
but
need one of those big giant brushless systems.
yeah, I have my eye on one of the brushless systems. It's actually the brushless system that I'm running in the 1.9 JK, the black one that I just finished, Fool's Gold.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
because that one is actually not bad. It's the Holmes Hobbies. I think it has a two pole. It's a two pole motor. It's the Trailmaster and the Trailmaster BLE, which I believe is the
Mm-hmm.
PSC. I mean, it's a super cheap setup for what you're getting. I mean, you get everything for about 150 bucks plus shipping to your door, and I mean, it's got more than enough power to push that car. So it's a 30. I mean, the
Nice.
one I went with was a 3300 kV. So. I figure that should be more than enough for the mud truck.
Oh yeah.
If I want to go crazy, I could get a bigger motor, but that's what I'm running in the scaler, and I have that thing geared way down. So
Yeah.
it's funny because if I ever want to kind of bash with that scaler, all I do is give it throttle. The thing will actually start to pull a wheelie when it's on when it's on the grass.
That's awesome.
It's pretty funny,
Nice.
um, but yeah. So enough about me. What do you got on the bench?
Oh, well, I didn't sleep Saturday night. I was getting stuff ready. I had to print out some like product for giveaway and stuff for when I was down at King Crawler RC, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I was getting our King of the Hammers Jeep switched over to be a scout-ish type Ultra 4 racer, and so I used like the Proline ambush body, their Ridgeline trail cage, and then I got a VS410 body accessory kit with the grill and everything, and I sectioned out the grill to fit the Proline, and then added the door handles from the VS410, the steering wheel from the VS410, and then they did like a retro themed pod style light bar with kind of retro like checkered flag covers and stuff on it. So it sort of was all a little touch of modern and a little touch of period correct. You know, old school like scout race truck style, you know, like back in the day, like Walker Evans and those guys, you know, kind of that themed rig. So it's sort of like that era meets modern. So it turned out kind of cool. But I got that ready, went and threw all the JK, the Night Customs JK body on my go-to rig, the OGS CX that I've got, and then threw a bunch of scale accessories on it. And then I was messing with my BPC trailer and made a bunch of bracketry and added exterior pod lights over the little workbench that fastens to it that you can put the barbecue on and stuff. So I got the trailer all like scaled out finally with taillights and all that. So it turned out pretty cool. So I'm sort of excited to take that out in the woods and get some pictures. And then our Yeti Junior, I left it alone and took it down there for their show and shine. And then when I was done with that, when I got back Monday, order from Maine came in, and I switched it all back to the. See, mine started out as the trophy truck, and so all the arms and everything on mine are black. So I got all the Can-Am pieces and painted up a clear body, and then painted the cage on it. I had used an automotive adhesion promoter for like urethane bumpers. It's called Bulldog, and usually any kind of plastics, you know, as far as like on a kit or anything like that. Anything I want to paint that's injection molded, I use that because it seems to bite really nice first, and then I'll paint over it. So I painted the cage, did matte clear over the interior, and then threw a couple different wraps on it last night, getting it kind of ready for its photos for the online store and our website and all that stuff. So it was kind of cool. I put a Tekin BXR in it, and it's like so little that it mounted like on my receiver, and then I was able to mount the receiver on top of the servo. So all the electronics are all stacked up nice and centered in the middle of the tub chassis on it, and the ESC doesn't sit any taller than the motor does, which was really cool. So I've got all the electronics crammed in there, and there was actually a lot more room than I thought there would be, and it didn't add a whole lot of weight up high. So it's kind of cool. The thing actually works really good. It was a lot lighter, and so I took the springs off the Proline Pro Spec shocks that were on it because it needed stiffer springs for that hard body Polaris Razor. And so I put the stock springs on the Proline Power Stroke shocks, and it's just so perfectly plush. Like the ride height of it sits about, you know, when you just have it sitting on the bench with the battery in it, it sits about halfway through the travel, front and rear. Like it sits super nice, and it's just really plush and has plenty of droop and still lots of up travel. And I locked the rear diff, so I'm actually going to take it out because Chino's been talking about how he hurts people's feelings with his Yeti Junior crawl and stuff and everything. You know, he'll take his out and show people up on some stuff with his little amazing Yeti that he's got. So I'm kind of curious to see how well, you know, if at all, the thing's going to crawl. So kind of excited to see what it's all about. It'll be fun to get it out there. Hopefully, maybe this weekend. We'll see how things go.
Well, honestly, I got to see his go out, firsthand.
Oh, you did?
Yes, because I met up with a couple guys. Oh, when was this? Almost 2 months ago. I want to say the beginning of March ish. I want to say. I met up with this local crew, or I don't know if you know if it's a club. It's really a crew. Highway One RC. They had invited me over to Diablo or Mount Diablo, which is in San Ramon, which is about 45 minutes ish away from me. Because they wanted this is right after the Yeti Junior was released, so they wanted to see, they wanted to get somebody out there because they don't have one. They'd like to see it, give a review, kind of check it out, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So um, they invited me and we went out. Well, Chino was another one who went out there because he was one of the first ones to get a Yeti Junior because he was huge, big time into the OG Yeti Junior. So
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to get this one to see what it was like, and I gotta say, because he locked his, if I'm not mistaken, with a soldering iron, he melted all the
Yeah.
plastic. He melted all the plastic together. But I mean, that little thing, he took it places like I couldn't believe that thing went. I mean, it was actually it was pretty impressive. Mine won't do any of that though because because I don't have anything done to it. So
Right.
yeah, so mine's still pretty much as stock as it gets. I threw like a sticker on there and painted up the helmets myself just to give it a little more
Right.
hands on some of those new products from Axial, all the hop ups for it. Just because I like that,
Oh, I know, right?
just because I like that color. It's something about that color. I don't know what it is. It's like not gold. It's not really
I know,
bronze.
right?
Like I don't even know what to call it. But it's like
It is really cool though.
it's a unique color, and I think it would just look really good on there. And it's a bummer because I went on A Main's website. I can't even find it on A Main's website, so I don't know if that's me being searching it wrong, or if they don't have it up yet. And then
I don't think they have it up yet because
okay,
there's all the stuff that's out now with part numbers for the Unimog and everything, and none of that's on there yet. But it's still on Axial site, so they're
okay,
probably having to kind of input a lot of stuff on their end still.
okay, because then I went on RPP just to see if they had it, and they were sold out of like two or three of the popular items. I think like the locker and like the steering upgrade, the new rack and pinion and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
they had the other stuff. But see, I want to order, like, I know I sound picky, but I want to just order everything as one. Like I'd like to just place one order, get the drive shaft, get the steering rack, get the locker,
Right.
get the front universals, everything. I want it, and the knuckles. I want to get everything once and be done with it, and then that way I could just
Yeah.
install it all once. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah. Oh, real quickly to go back because it was something that kind of I was thinking about when you were talking about it. You mentioned your BPC trailer. Um,
Yeah.
Now I don't know how many people actually know about BPC chassis as far as like our East Coast followers. Um, but BPC chassis is a local company. Well, I call it local to me. It's up in Sacramento. Um, it's two guys, two good friends. They do a lot of aftermarket parts. They were actually a part of the Red Cat Gen 7 um, rig when that came out. It was running on what was then a BPC Gen 8 chassis, I want to say.
I believe so. Yeah.
So that's why it was a little confusing because it was Red Cat's Gen 7, but it was BPC's Gen 8 chassis. So it was kind of funny, but anyways, I mean, so they make this trailer, and I don't think a lot of people are familiar or like know about it. Um, they make this trailer. It's like a Bantam trailer, I mean, it's a cool little trailer. I mean, for $70, you get everything to make it a basic trailer, minus the wheels and tires. So if you have a set of wheels and tires, and that's the other cool thing about it too, is it comes with these little, I don't know what would you call them, like a spindle bolt. Like it's like a free spinning bolt that you can bolt your uh, your like a stock set of takeoff wheels and tires, and you have a
Mm-hmm.
full on trailer.
Yep. Yeah, I think mine has SBC wheels on it, and I just had some axial ripsaws laying around, so I just threw those on it. But yeah, it's. I mean, I know Brandon Caton made his like a portable kind of like camping kitchen type trailer,
Hmm.
and then mine is sort of like an overland style trailer. I made racks on it out of brake line tubing, and then shot all that black, and then bolted that on. So it's got a Night Customs front runner roof rack on it with a um, little rooftop tent that I made up with some fabric and some cardboard and CA glue, and then it's got a RC 4 wheel drive, high lift jack, Night Customs Canyon cooler, Proline barbecue, a bunch of Proline's little roto packs, a bunch of accessories Proline discontinued. It's got on it. It's got like shovel and their little camp shovel and propane bottle and just a lot of cool like little add-ons, and so I've got all those on it. But I ended up widening the stance by about an inch, and I moved the fenders up just a little bit higher because I hadn't mounted those
Hmm.
previously. And I actually really like the look of it with the fenders. I was never planning on using them just because the sides of it kind of hang over the tires, and so it sort of like has a fender type shape to it anyways. But after putting those on and then tucking the taillights in between the area and the fender and the top of the body portion of the trailer, it ends up being pretty neat, and it just all runs off of a little well, actually it was a stock CR12 little tiny like 850 milliamp lipo, just sits inside a little container that's been bed linered black, so it's not noticeable. It kind of blends in because I sprayed bed liner on just about all of the interior and the tongue sections of the trailer. So I'll get some pictures of it posted up to the that Skiller C Show page. That way people can take a look at some of the stuff that we're talking about on the show today and kind of see some pictures to go along with what we're saying. So
Yeah, maybe
might be kind of cool to do.
maybe I should pull mine down and get some pictures of it. I never like really finished the top portion of it, but it's a full, completely functioning trailer. Which actually, now that I think about it, I had that thing wrapped with uh, one of your wraps to match my Cherokee, and now that it's not a Cherokee anymore and it's the JK, I wonder if I should rewrap it.
Oh yeah, we could do like I don't know. We could follow the black and gold theme onto it or something or
Yeah,
whatever you want to do. I did gray camo just because it kind of matches with everything,
yeah,
Because at the time I only had one rig I pulled it behind, and that was our Icon Forerunner, but I ended up selling that. So probably the my old school SCX will be the one that pulls this one around.
yeah. Yeah, because mine's kind of like that digital urban camo, black and white. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. It'll probably clash with the black and gold JK.
Oh yeah, it'd be easy to fix. That's no big deal.
So we'll have to come up with something cool about that. Which is another cool thing that's kind of like hand in hand. Because I don't know, do you have that up on your website? You actually make wraps for the Bantam trailer.
Oh yeah, I don't have it listed on. I'm still trying to get stuff up. I'm kind of falling with my stupid back. I went and got X-rays done today, so hopefully I'll figure out what's wrong with it. But I've kind of fallen behind with work and with getting new products like
Well,
posted up because I've wanted to have a lot of different things done and like on the site and everything that I just haven't had a chance to do yet.
well, I mean, the it not to cut it down. It's the trailer, so it's not like a rig. Now if you were I'd see you putting a rigs wrap in front of a trailer wrap as far as priority of getting it completed. So that way people could get it because if you don't have a
Sure.
if you don't
Yeah.
have a rig, you're not towing the trailer. I mean, these aren't drivable trailers, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
So
But yeah, I'll get all those up, and then I got to get all the Yeti Junior stuff up on the site too. So I'll probably do like a separate section of just Yeti Junior stuff. So I think that'd be kind of cool.
okay. Oh, I remember. This actually just dawned on me. We ended last week's episode trying to kind of guess and speculate what Axial's new release was going to be. And
Ah,
of course, for us, it released the day after we recorded. So it was funny. If we would have recorded a day later, we could have actually already had all the information. But that's just how it is. Um, so I was completely wrong on like both accounts, um, but you were pretty much spot on with your guess of what it was.
oh, yeah. That was, yeah. We talked a little bit about that thing this weekend. I have some friends that aren't fans of that new rig, but for some reason I'm way into it.
Well, I mean, like I get it. It's not for everybody. I myself am not a big Unimog fan. It's just not my cup of tea. But it's a it's a totally cool rig as far as they nailed it on, in my opinion, stepping out of the comfort zone. Because with Axial being, they try to they try to keep everybody happy, I guess you could say, as far as like picking rigs to base it off of. And if you look
Hmm.
in the real world, Jeeps are a dominant force in the off road. So naturally, a lot of rigs are going to be Jeep bodies. And then the Honcho, I would call that like your Toyota, which is another dominant rig platform in the one-to-one world. So it makes sense. So then to see them come out with something like Unimog, which is, they are a dominating force in the off-road in their own right, but they may not be the most popular rig, but the amount of detail and scaleness that they put into this rig, I think is like awesome.
Yeah, for sure. It looks like something Axial would release. Like you look at it, and just there's styling cues of
Hmm.
like how it has some real modern looking headlights and grill and stuff like that. So there's some styling cues to it that definitely are kind of modern looking, but it still has sort of that classic Unibog overall look and feel to it. Like personally, I think it's rad. Like I want one. I either want to get one and build the kit, or use that NWSD Truggy chassis that I've got and build that into the Unimog and just do a steel cage on it rather than the plastic one that comes on the Unimog kit. So that's probably what I'll do, is throw that body and everything on it. But that'd be kind of a cool rig for it. So
Yeah, and actually, you kind of just said it. Um, that's their first kit that they've released in what, over 3 years.
yeah, because that Cherokee kit,
The original
yeah,
SCX-10-2 that first came out was a kit, and it was the
yeah,
Cherokee.
AX90046.
I can't believe you know that.
It's on a poster in here. That and John Schultz used to have his
That his license
his
plate.
license plate frame was a
Yes,
part number, which
yes,
I thought was cool.
yes. I remember that. Well, that was actually cool because he actually got that Jeep right after, and it actually looked just like the kit. So it was almost like one of those,
Mm-hmm.
oh, did you model this off your own car? But yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, when that kit came out, but it was totally different for Axial. They were with a new transmission setup, whether or not people liked it, but there was a different style transmission. I mean, there's a lot of newer things. The AR-44s, that was the first time we saw the AR-44s. So,
Yeah.
and then after that, every single car they've come out with since then has been a ready to run. They came out with the Cherokee as a ready to run. They came out with the um, the CRC Jeep. They came out with the Honcho. They came out with the Blazer and the Deadbolt, and those were all ready to run vehicles. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of rumor that the days of kit building were done. There was no more kits. They weren't doing it anymore.
Right.
So to see them come out with a kit, I think is pretty cool. Of course, it's
Definitely.
really gonna pertain or grab the interest of builders, people who enjoy building. But I think it's awesome. I mean, it's definitely a cool looking rig, and it's our first time we're seeing Axial release a vehicle without the red diff covers.
Yeah, that's right. The silver looks really good on it. Silver, gray, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. So I think that's pretty cool. It gives it a more stealthier look. And yeah, like I said, I think it actually kind of went over everybody's head when the first picture got leaked because I think it was like midnight. A hobby shop had released because they were getting everything ready for the next day, so they had released that the vehicle was available. And when everybody saw that picture, I think it went over everybody's head because they didn't announce that it was a kit. They just said the new vehicle's here. This is the new vehicle, and
Right.
I think it went over everybody's head that it was actually a kit
Yeah, probably. They
for
just thought it was
for a little bit.
another RTR.
I first noticed it was a kit when the picture was sent to me on Messenger, and the first thing I noticed was I was like, "Wait a second, they're showing like part of the inside, and there's no electronics." So that's when I was like, "Well, if there's no electronics, I wonder if this is a kit." Because why would you
Yep.
uninstall electronics for a picture?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's cool. It's definitely a love it or hate it vehicle, you know. But anymore, any of them are now. It's like you can come up with something that you think everybody's gonna love, and it's some are still gonna hate it. So
Well, I think
it's funny how that works.
what I think is actually funny is the fact that you watch when they released this vehicle and people when they did that whole thing with the tarp over the rig and they were like, oh, we were out on trail. Can you guess what this is? And da 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 da. All their little stuff they were doing. It was funny to see people post up in the comment section, like when they're making their guess. Like some people were they're like, I mean, like there's some that were bitter, some that were being serious, and the one that I cracked up was some I forget who it was, but somebody posted up uh regardless of what it is, it'll make grown men cry. It was I was cracking up. That was
That's
hilarious.
funny.
So, but
That's true though.
oh yeah. So,
That thing's pretty neat. I'm actually looking forward to that one. I think it'll be cool because it's going to be really a strange vehicle for me to build. So I'm kind of excited about that one.
I'm still, you know, trying to get a 1.9 Wraith. That's my next vehicle.
Yeah.
The problem I'm having right now, not to get totally sidetracked, but it's like I'm trying to get into a real truck for work. So it's like I'm trying my hardest to only spend what I need for my
Oh
for the
yeah.
hobby. So it's like, do I really need this extra truck right now? Not really, but I really want one. So
Exactly.
so I'm trying to focus on just finishing up some of the builds I already have. Like I actually just sent out my UC Fab chassis, some parts, and some wheels to a guy back in Pennsylvania to get Cerakoted.
Oh, nice. That's gonna
So
be cool.
so when that comes back, hopefully I can start assembling it to start seeing what the end result's going to look like. So I,
That's gonna be awesome.
I'm really excited for that one. That one's a build that I wanted to do it right because that chassis, in my opinion, is like flawless. Especially after I had Kyle fix the other stuff that whoever owned it before me butchered on it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, looking at the craftsmanship, I was like, okay, you have to do this right. So, and I had a couple buddies that said, well, why didn't you get it done here? Like, why didn't you get somebody to powder coat it here? I said, well, it's not powder coat. I'm getting it Cerakoted. Um, it's a little more durable than powder coating. And from the work that I've seen from this individual, his company's name's Billy Coates, I think, like Billy Goat,
Hmm.
but with a C. So Billy Coat, um, LLC. You can find him on Instagram, and I think he's on Facebook. But I found him on Instagram because um, actually the wheels that I'm having done are by CNC custom wheels, and actually he started getting some of the ones that he was selling Cerakoted by this guy, and the colors that he was coming out with and like the finish, like I was like, wow, this is insane. Like I need to get my stuff done like that. So yep. I'm trying to
That's
focus.
gonna be awesome.
So I'm trying to focus on like finishing up builds. I need to finish up builds that are sitting there before I go buy something else. So,
Yeah.
but
No, I hear
but
you.
but I know it'll happen sooner or later.
Yeah. No, for sure.
But
I'm. It's tough trying to prioritize all that stuff too, and You know, it's stuff like with me sometimes, like as far as like working on new product stuff, the only time that I have is to do it late at night rather than during the day. You
Yeah.
know, because that's usually like customer order time. So it's tough getting our own stuff done at times, but
Oh yeah.
that's how it goes.
Oh yeah. Um,
I keep sitting here playing with this Yeti Junior. Like I keep like holding it and looking at it, and like it's just they're so freaking cool looking with that Can-Am body. I was kind of not so sure about it at first, but now I actually really like it, and especially since this little thing actually handles now. So I
well,
don't know. I'm curious to spend some time with it and see what it's like.
well, if you haven't seen at least Jay's Can-Am, you can see it on his. I know it's on SOR. I don't know if you put it up on your personal social media yet, but
No,
I've seen it on his SOR, and the Maxis wrap you did for that is like top notch.
oh, thanks. I like that one a lot on here. I've always wanted to do a Maxxis car, and I've done them for other people, but I thought, you know, this little thing has little baby Maxxis tires, so let's do kind of a somewhat like scale, like UTV race car looking wrap on it. So I'll probably do a couple little things to it to sort of scale it out and make it look a little more trick, and then we'll call it good. I don't know. It's just so cute. They're so little. And it's like actually with the stuff I've been putting in it, it's actually turning into like a real rig now, you know, with like some actually like durable and performance parts on it. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about that to actually, you know, build one of these little guys up.
Oh yeah, and that's like I said. Like when I first got mine, I literally sat there and held it for like hours, just playing around with it because it's like
Yeah.
it's just so cool because it's not it's not. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it because I don't want to cut it down because it deserves the justice that it has. It's like I've never picked up any of my rigs that I've finished or that I've been working on, and just I don't ever just pick it up and just look at it and spin it around and cycle the suspension. I mean, when you're building it, yeah, you cycle the suspension to make sure it works, but I've never done that with any of my
Mm-hmm.
rigs. You pick up the Yeti Junior and you're just like playing with it. You're like making the A arms go up and down. And I don't know why. I
Yep.
don't know why.
It's funny. It's just kind of fascinating because it looks so real now and little and stuff, and especially when you do like little things like doing a Tamiya flat clear over the interior, like that lends a lot more realism to it because then you don't have guys in, you know, sparkly shiny black race suits
True.
sitting inside it and stuff. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun rig, and Chino's kind of got me pumped on seeing what the thing's actually capable of now. So looking forward to the time that I actually get to drive it. So that'll be kind of neat.
Yeah. And I guess, you know what, if we're going to be talking about it so much, we might as well lend like a little shameless plug to Chino so people can check out his stuff. I'm actually looking up his.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
so you can find him on Facebook under Chino Nazareta. And I forget what he goes by on Instagram.
I forget too. I just remember the hashtag he always uses, just Chino Yeti Junior. You know, just all one word as a hashtag, and that's how I found most of his Yeti Junior posts.
Yeah, so that'll probably yeah. On Instagram it's just Chino underscore Naz. So he's got a lot of pictures of his Yeti Junior. That's like I think hands down one of his favorite rigs, and he's got a couple that have really inspired me to, um, you know, that really inspired me to want a Yeti. Like and you were another one. I've said it over and over again. I'm sure I sound like a broken record. uh, you know, when you started doing the Polaris one, I was like, all right, I want to do the same thing. I started, with the Polaris body, and I started, trying to get parts. But then once the Can-Am one came out, I said, just get that one. And once I got it, I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm switching this out to the Polaris. This thing just looks so cool.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Once I changed the colors on it, like it really kind of came alive. I think the blue is my favorite. Like the blue one kind of just popped and looked really clean and everything. But it'll be interesting to see how that stuff sells because I wonder if people are going to buy like a full wrap more often than just buying like the replacement sticker kit for it or what. But I thought doing like a replacement sticker kit and have like a couple camo patterns and then some, you know, like cool, you know, like primary colors and then a couple oddball ones like that cyan color. I think that might be kind of cool, and then that way you've got something for everybody. So, and then I'll get our the Polaris. I'll get that template up on the store site too, so that if somebody wants to punish themselves and do a lot of cutting and fitting to get a Polaris hard body to fit it, they can at least have our app available for it. So that'll be cool.
Nice.
But
Yeah, which is actually, so I was about to say that, but you kind of beat me to it. I was going to say, we're talking about you're coming up with wraps. Um, and between the Maxxis one and it's based off of the factory colors, or not factory colors, the factory layout, but different colors for the Can-Am. So,
yeah, I actually really like this just because it's a lot different than anything I've done. You know, like it's super toned down and not many pieces to it, and but it really just made for kind of a clean look. So I'm sort of into it. So I don't know how long the Maxxis wrap will stay on before I go all minimalist and do like cyan or something on it.
well, I mean, the one I got to say is that blue one. It looks really good, and I think a lot of it has to do with that it ties in with those blue Proline shocks you have on yours.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because with the blue being anodized on the shocks, it does kind of reflect light a little bit differently and kind of works good with that light blue that was on it before. So Casey's brother Cody has one that's that black and light blue. So I'm gonna try and replicate the pieces to that the best I can because his is a wrap and it's done in just a couple certain areas. But I want to do that for him and send it to Cody so he has something cool, you know, that matches his real life one. So
Oh, nice,
get a couple of those done for those guys.
nice. So, what else? Well, I know you kind of talked on it a little bit before, but I didn't even really ask you what did you do this weekend? Because I know
Oh
you had
yeah,
another event to go to as well.
yeah. I went down to Kent, Washington to King Crawler RC, and three of the guys from our club went with me down there. We just all hopped in my truck and carpooled down. And one of them, it was his very first time driving a crawler. My buddy Bryant Carlson. I know him from racing, you know, here from back in the day, and he kind of got the itch to try the scale RC thing. So we took him down and their indoor course. That was his very first driving experience, and he's already like, "When are we going back?" So kind of anxious to, you know, get some more people down there and checking it out because it was pretty wild there. It's office and small warehouse space, and so like in front, the office area is like their all showroom and stuff, and they've got a little room that's off to the side that's lockable for all their small parts, like, you know, wheels and replacement parts. And then out in the main part of the store, they have kits everywhere, and then a couple glass displays and stuff. So
Oh, nice.
it was neat. And then you walk. They had like a big screen with playing videos from like Recon G6s and stuff on the big screen inside the store, and then you go out to the shop area, and it's probably a 30 by 30 square that they've framed in, kind of like pony walled it, and filled it full of dirt, and then started building on top of that with rocks and everything else. And I mean, I've seen some pictures of indoor courses like Reefs RC, and I think there's two crawl zones. One of them spelled with a K, but I think the Colorado one is the K one if I remember right, and that's the one that has an indoor crawling area too. But like this thing was actually pretty massive, and the first level of it, they've really kind of maxed out their square footage, and so now they're doing trails and bridges and ladders and stuff overhead, so they're taking the course even further and building up instead of out. So they're getting they're definitely working on using as much of the air, you know, surface area that they have there possible, you know. So it really, it was pretty amazing. It has workbenches all around the perimeter of the shop area with chairs, so you just kind of like sit at the, you know, little bar there that's butted up to the wall, and that's your little pit area for the day. And there's plugins, you know, for charging and whatnot. Just very, very cool. And they do night crawls there. 7 o'clock, they turn off the lights, and they do night crawls, and then the shop closes at 9 p.m. And so they've got the majority of the paths, especially like all the wooden structures, are all illuminated with LED tape. So it looks really cool. They got a water feature that's going in with a pond liner and a pump and everything. So there'll be a little waterfall section. It was just, it was amazing. They put so much time into that outfit, and it was really cool to see because they had a lot of brands there that, I mean, they had some stuff I had never heard of, but they also had a good selection of kits. I mean, they had like Charisma, and they had G-Made, they had a lot of RC four-wheel drive, Axial, of course, but I mean, their variety that they had was killer. I mean, they had a couple different G-Made sawbacks there, which I thought was really cool. I mean, just a lot of stuff you don't usually see, and they're into it too. You know, the owner, the guy's name's Harold Wynn, and he has like a Capo JK Max that he's building, and he showed that to us, and that was pretty mind blowing to see in person. What else? I mean, it was just cool because they would like build up rigs and have them just all over the place inside there, you know, behind like glass cases or sitting on shelves. So it was neat to see, and they were all rigs that the guys actually like drive and stuff. So it was really cool. I mean, they're just super into it. It's not, you know, just a 9 to 5 for them, which was really cool to see. I mean, they were just very much enthusiasts, so that was pretty rad to check out.
Nice.
And they had like a barbecue and a show and shine.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's shops like that can actually keep like going, because I mean, this hobby isn't the easiest thing to keep like, or not keep going, but like to get involved into, like to start out in, like, you know, like if you're like, oh yeah, I want to start a hobby shop, diving in like that, it's a big investment, and it's a lot of time, and it takes, you know, a lot of people to want to come and check it out, crawl on it, tell their friends, and not just that, they need to, you know, be buying things to keep those kind of shops going. So hopefully, it stays in business, and it stays I guess afloat is what I'm looking for. But I mean, if you the pictures you've posted from this are just like insane. I mean, everything that, like, I can't believe that's like, you know, like that's like their, like, it's a new store and that's what their setup's like. You're just like, whoa, you know, like this is something.
Yeah.
This is something you'd expect, like a seasoned store that's like, oh yeah, we're gonna put an indoor crawling course in here, you know. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's only been open a couple months too, which is crazy. I mean, like he explains his reasons for doing it and what kind of like his vision was for this place in the interview that I did with him, and so we'll cut to that real quick, and you guys can listen to me talking to Howard, and we will be right back. Hey everybody, this is Jeremy from That Scale RC Show, and I am here with Howard Wynn in Kent, Washington, and he is the owner of King Crawlers, which is the area's newest hobby shop, I believe. Howard, you've been open for about 2 months?
We started from, we tested the cars since December.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and then we officially run the store from January 1st until today.
Oh, wow.
So it's about over 3 months already, and it's getting better and better every day.
Great.
Yeah.
So what led you to open a hobby shop and an indoor crawler course? Were you interested in Scale RC prior, or basically how did this come to be? Because this is such a unique place with having a hobby shop and such a big outdoor or indoor course. It's not something you typically see. So what got you interested in wanting to do this? Because it's a big job to take on.
So the original idea from the very beginning is the day that I told my buddies, Frankie, I say, let's do something for our kids and our wife can play together, you know, like in the backyard.
Yeah.
You know, and my office is just right next to this course, and I say, there's another available spot right there that we can take, and you know, I told Frankie, okay, let's do it. I draw out the layout for the design of the course. I chose all the materials that we can put together and some research on the internet. And then finally, when the layout and the design was in place, at that time, I told Frankie, okay, this is what I want. I think that your wife, my kid, your kids, we can all play together and share it with all the folks around. And we secured the location here, and we start building it. It took us about 1 month since November that we moved in to build everything from dirt to this. So like everybody around, in the other offices just stop by and stare at us and say, wow, this is from that to this? You guys are amazing. I say thank you very much, but like my hand hurts really bad.
I bet.
Yeah. And then it gets to the point that we realize that the more challenge, the better feeling that the drivers have.
Right.
And even for myself, as a big fan of the crawling, and then we twist here, twist there, almost every single days. We find some new spot that we can improve and get a better, more challenge. So did every other customer. They swing by this. You guys change every single day. So every time they stop by, they find something new in the cars. That's cool. Exactly what we wanted it to be. And then there's still, until this point today, there's a couple more, space that we can maximize the use of the space. And we're gonna go higher.
Yeah, which is really unique. You guys, you'll be able to see the pictures that I've taken of this place. You'll see exactly what he's talking about here. They've actually gone and taken the square footage that they have available and increased it by doing bridges and all these awesome wooden pathways and roads that are elevated above the main part of the course. So really, I mean, you guys keep changing stuff to basically keep it exciting, and people look forward to coming back to see what's new then, right? And so that's the reason for all the changes and the upgrades.
Right.
And
the tips for the upcoming challenges is we're gonna build the upper part of the second half of the tracks. We're gonna build the highway with like the overturn go around.
Oh wow!
Around.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it all links together. So you cannot bypass. Let's say that you don't like that obstacle right in front of you. You pick the other line and go. But when you pick the options with the second line right there, it's going to be harder than the existing one right there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the upcoming highway, that's what we call, is it will take a lot of focus, skills, and patience from the driver to drive. Through that terrain up high, and then more zigzag, not easy.
Yeah, that's easy. One of the things I noticed right away, just even from the first time driving on it, was it is very technical and very challenging, and it's fun, but like visually, it's you walk in and your mind's kind of blown by like the scale of what's been created here. And again, I really encourage you guys to check out the pictures of this place because it's incredible. And if you're in the Seattle area, if you're into Scholarship, you have to come here and check this out in person, because what I saw on Facebook and everything, it looks cool, but you have no idea exactly how awesome it is until you show up here. It's a really unique facility. it almost looks like you guys. Did you have any kind of like experience with like racing RC cars in the past or anything like that?
I've been playing with RC, all type of RC, from short course truck to crawling to drifting, but nothing is like, I would say personally, nothing is close to crawling, because it requires a lot of you
Yeah,
in the game.
exactly.
Yeah. So I decided to invest all of my saving in this, and create a very friendly, very natural ways as it can, for the indoor course and for everybody to enjoy. After a long week of like hard working,
Oh yeah.
and now it's time to play and have a party.
Exactly. And that's what was so cool, and what makes this so different is from the second you show up here, like it's a really friendly atmosphere, and you just feel welcome. Like everybody's talking to you, saying hi. Everybody's super polite. There's no like egos or anything.
Yeah.
It's a really cool, mellow scene, and it really captures that essence of scale crawling, where it's just hanging out with your buddies and
share their
enjoying.
experience.
Yeah, it's
Share the hobbies.
exactly.
Because everybody's different. The toys is different.
Yeah,
They have their own taste, their own styles, and it shows just right there. It shows who you are right there.
Exactly,
With the crawler that you have,
Yep.
it's you.
yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a your taste in vehicles and the way that you personalize them. I mean, it's a direct reflection of you. There's a lot of yourself into something like that, and it's a cool way to express yourself. The reason why I was asking if you had any racing experience is one of the neat features about this place is the fact that they actually have benches, like pit tables, all the way around the perimeter of the course, which that's something that I normally see at like indoor racetracks and
Right.
stuff. And when I saw that here, I was like, oh my god, that's so smart. I mean, that's perfect. It keeps people out of the way, and you're not tripping over stuff.
Yeah.
And it's convenient for guys to work on their stuff. And it's just kind of one small example of how well thought out everything is. Next thing I was wondering was, what came first, like the course or the hobby shop? Was the hobby shop kind of like an afterthought? Like, was the course the main idea, and then you thought, well, since people are here, we might as well be, selling them, products?
I would say the home package.
Oh, so that was your vision right from the start, just
Right.
all
The home
inclusive
package.
then.
Yes. We just one more idea that we have been discussing back and forth for the track that we have, that the franchising for the brand, for the track, and for all the brainstorming that we have.
Right.
So franchising is under consideration, that me and Frankie we build up next couple months, that we do hope that everybody around the country can enjoy the indoor course. First of all, is because of the Seattle, Washington area
Yeah,
that we live in.
exactly.
Yeah, obviously it's raining like
Yeah,
almost
today
like
we had sunshine, clouds, and rain all in, a 5-hour span. So.
But instead of like bringing your wife, your kid to in the middle of the forest to play, sometimes it's inconvenient. But to have excuse me.
That's fine.
Hang on.
That's okay.
Hannah, I'm talking to Kristen here.
I didn't know you were here. You were hiding away from me.
Okay.
There's
Just give me 1 minute, okay?
Okay.
Alright, love you.
Love you.
That's great. That's so cool that they're like hanging out here, and it's not like work for them. It's actually a fun environment for them to be in and spend time. It's really cool.
Obviously in Seattle that we have is raining all the time, and sometimes you bring your wife, your kids to the middle of the trails in the jungles. Sometimes it's not comfortable for
Right.
maybe for you, but not for the one who tag along with you.
Exactly.
So the indoor course, I would say, have a totally different feelings, more secure, more safe.
I think it's a lot more kid friendly. There's actually one of the guys here is from our local crawler club. He has two sons, and one of them kind of is a little leery about heights. And where we live up north near Anacortes, a lot of where we go is like kind of mountainsides and cliff sides and stuff at the parks we go to, and quite frankly, it scares him, and so and it's understandable because you're one of the places that we go. You're actually so high up that you're looking down at the airplanes going underneath you and stuff. So I could see it'd be scary for kids, but yeah, this is really kid friendly. You guys have sodas and all kinds of stuff, snacks and everything. And
there's so many times customer come here with the whole family, like 3 generations.
That's great.
Grandpa, grandma, and then mama and papa, and the kids just they all gather together and play, and everybody got their own crawler and enjoy their times together. It makes me really happy.
That's so
when I see
great.
that. Yeah.
And there's not, even that is an uncommon thing. You'll see stuff like that at like Axial Fest and bigger things, but you don't really see that at other places on just any given weekend day that you've got like an entire family down here enjoying it, and that's something that's really rare. And one of the other things that I thought was incredibly cool was you walk in and immediately you notice, like, especially as far as kits go, there's a huge variety of what they stock here. It's not like some places where their inventory is heavily like Axial biased or Traxxas or anything like that. When I came here, you guys have Charisma, you have Cross, you've got Axial, RC 4-wheel drive, G-Made. It's cool showing up somewhere and actually getting to see these. And the nice thing is that you guys, this isn't just a business adventure for you. You're actually passionate about the hobby. And so, like when you were showing us the Capo JK Max and everything, like, that's what's cool is like you're into it. This is your thing and you love it, and you guys are actually like building stuff and having it on display, and you don't really see that at some of the shops that you go to. Everything's boxed away and put up, and you're taking stuff out and handing it to us to handle and stuff, and it's great. You've got a great selection of brands here. It's just unique. I've never seen anything like this place. There's maybe 2 or 3 others that I've seen, but nothing has really been done quite on this scale and level to detail. So if you guys are in this area, this is a must-see place to come down and check out. I believe it's is it $15 for a day pass here?
It's $5 an hour, and the day pass is like $15.
Oh, perfect.
Open the door. I need something.
Okay. $15 a day and $5 an hour.
That's great. That's cheap entertainment for the family.
Right, very affordable. Because at the end of the day, it's all about sharing and enjoy together. Of course, like all the businesses, they gotta make money at some point.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so do we.
Right.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be too hard.
Right.
Enjoy together.
Exactly.
So everybody, I want everybody to have a good time.
Oh, and that was just it. I didn't see people getting frustrated or mad. Like everybody's smiling, having fun, and it's going to be cool to watch you guys along this journey and seeing how this grows and where it takes you and stuff. And I'm really excited to start bringing more and more friends down here to check this place out and just kind of see the direction that all this goes, because it's definitely something special you're doing here, and I can't wait for people to see it. So. Well, Howard, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to your family. And,
Thank you.
So anyways, like as you guys heard, the guy's super passionate about what he does, and it's very, very family fun oriented, and it was really cool to see. So it's going to be neat kind of seeing what the future holds for this outfit. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, and see, and I think that's cool that you bring up the family oriented thing, because nowadays I think so many people they like start losing focus on like what this hobby's about. You know, like when especially like when it comes into like even like like the sponsorship, like these people come out and like they get sponsored or they see other people being sponsored and they want to get into this and they get into it for the wrong reasons, and it's like there's kind of like I call it like not really. I guess you could say rules. It's more like in my opinion, like a code. As cheesy as that sounds, like it's a code you almost have to follow and like learn if you're gonna go through, the sponsored route. There's a time and place for everything, and there's different levels of it, and it's not always like, you know, what I think everybody thinks that it's gonna be. There's like what they think a sponsorship's gonna be, and then there's like I think their expectations, and then there's actually like reality of what really happens. You know, Be-
Right.
because I mean, I guess for you, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're kind of like on both ends. You're a sponsor
Yeah.
and a sponsoree, so you kind of get to see both, I guess, sides. Whereas I'm more of a sponsoree. I've, got a handful of sponsors, and it's, I try to stay, family orientated. Family comes first. Michelle comes out with me. I make sure she's having fun and her rig's up and running. If her father comes out with me, I make sure he's up and running and having fun. If her son comes out, like I said, I try to stay with the family part first. Then everything else falls into, because I think the gray area that people don't realize when it comes, especially to like crawlers and scaling, the sponsorship stuff is a little different than if you're like a U4 rock racer or if you're like a track racer. Um, you know, it's there's not really, unless you're racing your scale truck. It's not like you're really racing or anything. So you have to the level of creativeness or like that you need to have, or the level of
Mm-hmm.
creativity. I'm sorry, I'm trying to like figure the right way to say it so I don't sound, dumb.
Sure.
But
No, no.
but yeah, like the level of creativity is going to be different because you're not really podiuming them, when you're out scaling. You're not getting like, oh, this person finished the trail first, we got a first place, because you're not racing, so you can't really say that, you
Right.
know. So
Yeah.
like when you promote it, it's got to be a little more tasteful, a little bit different. I mean, I'll just share some of my experiences. Like, I'll throw it out there as far as like, um, with like MKS, for example. I don't go out and say, look, I just won this race. This is the thing I was running, blah, 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 blah. It's more like, oh, I'm building this rig. Just I'm going with this servo for this reason. Here's where you can check it out, and just kind of put it out there, and then show it off that like, hey, this is what I'm putting in there. Just to be realistic about it, or like, hey, this one I feel is a budget friendly, coming in at X amount of dollars. It's like, but at the same time, I think other people think, oh, just because I'm running this, oh, I get all that stuff for free, and that's like the
Right.
biggest. I think the biggest misconception is, unless, which I think is even if you take it into like dirt bike racing and stuff, there's no factory ride unless you're like top dog, winning everything. And even
Yeah.
then, I don't even know. I mean, you probably have a better insight than I would, but like your majority of your sponsorships is going to be some sort of a discount off, some sort of a promotion, and you have to do work to promote that product, and you got to come up with the ways
Mm-hmm.
to get that product promotion out there to the people around you and at your local events and whatever, uh, to show like you have some sort of value. They're not just gonna say, "Hey, you want to be sponsored? Okay, cool. Oh, what do you need? Oh, I'll send you, 6 motors. Yeah, no problem." It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not what people think. And you get the whole, like, will you sponsor me thing? Like, I get that a lot from people. And unless you're racing or driving at a competitive level, it's hard. And I feel like it should be harder, but it's hard to get sponsored in Scale RC.
Mm.
Because you're not always doing events. And if you're not always doing events, you had better be building awesome stuff and showing off, the parts that go into it and everything. And you better have a pretty fairly good sized social media following, otherwise it's not really going to benefit anybody, and you're not going to secure a sponsorship from anybody. And so that's something that people really need to keep in mind is, well, great, I mean, I understand you're telling me right now, like, oh yeah, I'll pump your stuff up and let everybody know, and it's like, how, dude, I've heard that so many times, and it's like anymore it doesn't even get a response. When people are like, oh, I have a lot of buddies and I'll tell them, and they'll, it's like, cool, thoughtful gesture, but that doesn't work. I mean, I've been in this business has been around since 2005, and I've owned it since 2011, and I haven't come across an instance yet where there's been some guy who's like, hey, hook me up and I'll let all my buddies know, and you end up getting repeat business from that. Like, I never see that. Like, it's just something that doesn't happen, like people just, for the most part, want free stuff, and they don't understand that, unless you're doing some big thing in the hobby, or you're competing, one of those two things, you really don't deserve to be sponsored.
Well, see, and then that's the other thing too. And like I just said, and also you're not going to get it for free. Even if
not
at all. Even if they're going to give you a sponsorship, you're going to be like, all right, here you go. You get 15% off, 20% off. Like it's not going to be some crazy, thing. I mean, and honestly, every company is different. I mean, I can't get into all the individual contracts that I'm a part of, but like I can kind of give some sort of insight about what's what to expect. And then the other thing what people don't realize too is, like, if you're gonna, especially if you're seeking for a sponsorship, I know it sounds cheesy, but it's like, don't just ask anybody under the sun, because what you don't realize is, let's say, you're building, you build a couple rigs a year, and let's say you're like a budget-friendly person, and you buy like the really cheap, like no-name servos, and you buy like a lot of hobby wing speed controllers and motors, and like you're trying to stay budget-friendly, and then you ask somebody like Homes Hobbies or Tekin to be, like for sponsorship, and then like they look at your following and your following's okay, or they see that you actually go out and do this stuff or whatever, and they want to actually give you the opportunity, and they say, okay, yeah, cool, yeah, we will, here's your contract, and this is the amount you'll be getting off, and this is what we expect of you. Well, now, let's say you have 3 or 4 rigs, you got to change all those rigs out to their electronics, because they don't want to see you posting up something saying out at this event, and you have like a sticker on there, but you're running a different company's, product. Exactly. That right there will get you canned. And 2, it's like, so what I'm getting at is, like, people don't realize it will cost you money to go to start outfitting your rigs to that, especially when you have multiple rigs. Yeah. And that's the one problem I would have to say is the hardest for me, is any new sponsor you get now, especially like when I'm 15 rigs into the fleet, that's a lot of rigs to outfit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even with a little bit of help, it still gets expensive. So, so if you get the opportunity, I think it's totally cool. Have at it, have fun, respect it, treat it like a business. Be presentable, all that. But at the same time, a lot of these companies do like to see you being family oriented. Because if you can draw in a bigger family crowd, clearly if that atmosphere sees you, hey, this guy's this way, like, I mean, it sounds cheesy, but I mean, it happened to us 2 years ago at Axial Fest. We were out on trail with Thomas Cook of MKS, and we were just out there BSing, hitting the trail, and we get back to camp, and one of the local buddies of ours comes by and said, hey man, he goes, I broke my high tech in my son's Wraith, and nobody's got a servo heavy duty enough. Do you know? He goes, I know you guys run that MKS. Like, how good is that? Do you guys have any on hand? And I said, it's actually funny. Thomas is here. So Thomas made a sale right there, and
Nice.
And then he put it in there. We still to this day see him at an event. He goes, "I love this servo, dude. This is awesome. This is all I'm running now." And it came based off of seeing two people that run something, and they like the way we present ourselves. So you bring in that kind of positivity. These people are going to be like, they're going to remember that, and they're going to say, "Hey, look, they're working with these companies. They should be all right too if these guys are stand-up guys." Now, if you come out being
Right.
like a total jerk and you're representing all these things, they're going to be like, if they're that big of a jerk and these companies are dealing with them, that means these companies must not have strong values. So it's like,
Right.
it kind of goes hand in hand. You gotta, like I said, family orientated, getting people into the hobby has always been key for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's funny. Like, there's one of the things that, and I've heard it, and I also tell a lot of people that they're like, "What's one of the number one things about sponsorship?" And it's like, one of the most important things for me out of a driver is, how do you act on social media?
oh yeah.
You know, if you're a troll or you're being a dick to people online, then forget it. There's actually companies out there that I just straight up won't buy from if somebody, someone they sponsor's a jerk. I won't do business with them, because they should be keeping better tabs on their drivers that way.
Yeah.
So, that's like the number one thing. And then, like the other big help with sponsorship is, if you're already running the people's products that you're pursuing, chances are, you'll get picked up by them if you're doing everything else right. But you have a better chance of being picked up by somebody if you are currently a customer of theirs already. If you're one of those guys that plays musical sponsors and jumps around from brand to brand each year, you kind of develop a reputation for that, and then people don't want to touch you, and it's like the outfits that I've been with has been, several years now in the making, developing relationships with those people, and the majority of it, I was already a customer and using their stuff prior to being a driver for them. And so that's a really good way of getting your foot in the door and showing them that you're not just, product hungry and looking for handouts or cheapies. It's shows that, you actually do care about that brand.
Mm-hmm.
And then people are more likely to, to bring you on as a team driver than if that's the case.
Well, the other thing too that also benefits from that too is, if you've already been purchasing that product from those companies, you're kind of already familiar with it. So now if you're out like at an event, and you're on trail and somebody's like, "Hey, that thing's working really well," and let's say, one of your sponsors, sells shocks, the thing's performing really well, and they're like, "Hey man, that thing works really well. Like, what are those?" You could be like, "Oh, they're this shock. I'm running them this way with this oil and this spring rate." You can and when you know how it is already, and you can actually talk about it, they're gonna it benefits you more because you know the product. Now, if you just are you said, play musical sponsors and you just keep changing around, and let's say you're on trail and somebody asks you a question and you don't know, then they're gonna kind of be like, well, if you don't know, then why am I going to buy this part? Because if you don't know about it, why would I buy it?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you got to be a good representative for that brand.
Yeah, it's, know the product, good, that's why I call it business ethics, but good online presence and the way you present yourself with people, and, like you said, don't always be a jerk, and and that's the other thing too is, and I know it, and I see it, I think, a lot more in I call it the fanboys, or the brand groupies, the ones that they're really stand behind a certain brand. They're not sponsored by them, but they stand behind that brand. They get on,
right,
and they just the keyboard warrior and the trollness just starts flying, and everybody's I was actually talking with my buddy about this the other night. We were talking about something, and we brought up the same conversation. man, don't you love it when somebody says, "Hey, I'm just got into this. I'm looking for a decent servo," or "Hey, I just got into this. I'm looking for a decent motor," and all of a sudden you're sitting here going, "Oh boy, here comes the floodgates. Everybody's going to start sending their 2 cents," and then that's when all the mud,
Oh God,
and
yeah.
that's when the mud starts flying and every, and oh no, this one's better because, and it's like, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, all the stuff is generically the same. It's or it's, I guess the function is the same. The motor's propelling the car, which goes through the transmission, and the ESC controls how the motor works. I mean, so basically all the functions are going to be the same. It's really going to come down to how well you can tune that, manage it, you know,
You
durability.
know, and there's some right, and there's something else too that is an important thing to consider with sponsorship too. Like if you're a big builder, like let's say you're like a Todd Norton or somebody, having a sponsorship in some situations may tie your hands and you can't build all the things that you want to. There's a lot of freedom associated with not being a team driver, where you can build what you want, you can put whatever tire and wheel combination on it you want, and that's something you have to ask yourself is, okay, the things that I like to build or like to make, is a sponsorship even going to fit well with my program and what I like to do? Because
Yep.
very easily could limit the limit the extent of what it is that you're trying to build and be creative with. It'll kind of tie your hands.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely understand what you're saying, and it also goes hand in hand with with that portion ties into some of your online presence. I'm sponsored by a company. I won't get into it, but they have some newer, because the first of the year just started, so we had a lot of newer drivers and team members added, and some of them don't know the ropes of the do's and don'ts once you're sponsored. And our manager got on our group and basically told everybody, hey, watch the posts that you like and share, because some of those posts are competitors, and you're giving them likes and you're sharing their product when you're supposed to be a sponsored driver of our products.
Right.
And
I see that a lot actually in people that follow competitors pages that they aren't sponsored by.
yeah, and it's like, that's another thing, and that can also get hard too, because I have a couple friends that they've said it before to me, like they'll post up something and they'll be like, "Hey, you didn't like my picture. What's up?" And it's like, and I know as cheesy as it sounds, and it's like, well, dude, I can't like that picture. I mean, like, kind of like in my contract, I can't like it because you're basically showing praise to a product that it conflicts with what I'm sponsored with. So, so it does. So, like you
Exactly.
said, it ties your hands. You can't really, interact because, you know, it's,
Or you're part of fan pages, like you're a Tekin driver and you're on a fan page for Holmes Hobbies or Castle or something. Like
mhm.
that's not really appropriate. And the people that have a problem with stuff like that, are like, well, that's BS or whatever. Because I know there's somebody listening right now going, oh, that's a bunch of crap. I'm gonna like and do whatever I. Well, if that's the case, then you know what, you probably shouldn't be a team driver. Then that's kind of the give and take of the situation.
Exactly.
And if you're not willing to fulfill all the requirements, then you're not a good fit. So that's definitely something to consider.
Oh yeah, and it also goes into level of contracts too. There's some companies that are super by the book. They send you out a contract, sign and dot your name, and yada 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 yada. And then there's other ones where it's more of like a good old handshake. It's just like, hey, this is what we're expecting. We're gonna say this and blah blah blah. You
Right.
know, so there are different levels. Different. Every company's different. But bottom line, there's still, like I said, the code to follow. And
Right. Exactly.
and you just nailed it on the head. Just ask yourself that question. Say, hey, do you want to be tied down and not be able to run this or not be able to run that, or you know, so on and so forth, just because you decided to sign a contract? And then the other thing which just kind of flows into is if you do get with something a company and you decide partially through it like, hey, this is too much for me, it's a lot better on you to approach that company or the team manager or whoever's in charge and say, hey, look, I'm sorry, I thought it was going to be a little different. I can't meet the requirements needed. I'd rather see this go to somebody who's deserving and can make those requirements. To a company, that looks a lot bigger than them having to hunt
Oh yeah.
you down and say, dude, what the hell? Like
Right.
you're not doing anything you agreed upon. You know, so that goes into, like I said, part of the business ethics part. Just knowing how to have proper representation. So
Yeah, unless it is some tricky waters to navigate, especially if you don't come from an RC racing or like from a motorsports background where, if you don't really have a great understanding of how sponsorship works to begin with, a lot of these scale RC guys really don't know and understand fully, because they've never really been put in that situation before where they are a sponsored driver now. It's definitely easier if it's something you're already familiar with, otherwise it's, a lot of people don't live up to the expectations that companies have for them because they've never dealt with this type of thing before.
yeah, well, what's funny is it's funny you say that because I know you come from a racing background. You obviously raced, motocross before you got into RC. I was a fan of motocross. I was a fan of all that stuff, action sports and all that. But I never did any of it. I wasn't in. I never was like I never competed in BMX. I never competed in dirt bikes. I never competed in any of that stuff. My sense of, and this is just for me, and I'm sure there might be other listeners that are like this. My sense of kind of like the do's and don'ts comes from being self-employed. I'm
Right.
my own, I'm self-employed in construction. So it's like, I kind of understand from that lifestyle how to present yourself and how to, have a good, presence when you're dealing with people. And, that kind of, I guess is how you could say it kind of groomed me, cause when you're in business for yourself, nobody else is paying your way. You got to pay, you got to pay to play. So it's kind of the same thing with sponsorships. Yeah, get the sponsorship, but you still got to pay to put those products. Even though you're getting help, you're still paying to put those products. So if you're not willing to still pay for those products and put them in, and you just think everything's gonna be a free ride, that's another way to say, hey, look, this isn't for me.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're absolutely right.
And that's not to say, sometimes, because it's happened to me with some of the companies, that back me. You do X amount of stuff and they see that you're putting in the effort and they see you're putting in this work. Sometimes they might float you something here or there, It's not going to be in every time, but
Right.
it's incentive to say, hey, look, you're doing a good job. We appreciate what you're doing. This is on us, and it's cool,
Exactly.
and it's self rewarding when you actually get to that point because you're like, okay, I'm putting in this work, and somebody notices it. So it's a lot to take into, and a lot to,
It is.
and a lot to digest. I know you did a live feed. What was that, about a year? Not even a year. About 6 months ago.
Yeah, it was probably in the fall sometime.
October-ish, I want to say.
Yeah, probably 6 months ago or so.
Yeah. So, and you pretty much nailed it on the head. And I know there was people asking questions. I wonder if you can find that on your Facebook and share that to that Scale RC show page.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out and see.
There's a lot.
It should just be under my videos. I'll do that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of good information in that. So.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same thing each year too. Like, there's kind of a new crop of people that have gotten into it and want to be sponsored, and it just kind of I don't know, like you'll talk. It seems like it's sort of something we talk about every single year. You know, in the fall when kind of the whole sponsorship silly season's what we call it starts. You know, when everybody's changing or hopefully signing on and staying with the brands that they have. It's loyalty's not super common in RC anymore, but when there are people that are loyal and they stick with you for a number of years, boy, that sure is appreciated because there's a lot of people out there just hunting for a better deal and don't really care.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing too that actually shows a lot. To stay on this topic of sponsorship is your loyalty. It seems like nowadays, in almost anything you do, people will bounce around if they think they're going to get this for a better deal or this for a better price or this, and some companies will start to notice that. And also, you'll not only get that reputation through companies, you'll get that reputation through the community, and then the community, like you start getting, I guess, in hot water with like your community. Then your community kind of gives you, crap and doesn't really trust you and all that. So it's like, you just don't want to base this whole, lifestyle on being sponsored. Is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
If it
you get into it because you love it first.
exactly,
Then go from there.
and if it happens, cool. But if it doesn't, don't make it like don't make it your goal. To be
Yeah,
sponsored.
like our local track, the novice class guys are really hung up on being sponsored. Like that is like their thing. They want to be sponsored. It's like, man, you're a novice. Like, cool it and put in the time and put in the work for a couple of years. I mean, if you're good enough to be a sponsor, you should, to be a sponsored driver, you shouldn't be in the novice class to begin with. I mean that's for beginners, and you shouldn't be worried about that. I mean, when I got into RC racing, I was like, I don't want to have a sponsor. I'm not going to seek it out. This is something that, I've already been through all of that with motorcycles, and I want to keep this, a fun thing and not feel like another job. And I don't want to have sponsors for RC. And that lasted till, I don't know, probably about 2015. And then I started getting sponsors like for the 2016 series and stuff. I did finally decide, I wanted to be more serious about my racing and whatnot. And then when Scale RC came around, it was more along the lines of all the sponsors I had were pretty much people that I would do business with back and forth anyways, so we were just kind of all like buddies for the most part. So, and I think pretty much all of my current sponsors are just businesses that I do a lot of business back and forth with. We all help each other out and stuff, and so know each other through the industry, more so than me just hitting people out of the blue about being sponsored. So I think there was one sponsor I used to have, I think it was Beef Tubes, that I had actually like sought out an actual sponsorship with, but other than that, it was all like pre-existing people I dealt with. So it's kind of easy for me that way, like I'd have a lot of ins with working in the business, and just like you do, because you guys have a large social media following and whatnot. So it's, you and Elio definitely hold up your end of the deal with the sponsorship stuff. So
Yeah.
and you guys have been around a while now, and you get it.
Yeah, and the other thing that's hard too, I'll say that like I can say this because it's on that level, the 2 Chainz sponsorship level, there are, and especially like recently, it's kind of happened this way, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I've noticed that we have our what I call our 2 Chainz sponsorships, like the companies that back us as 2 Chainz, and then I have a couple actual companies that back me for being me. So it's also kind of like learning, I guess, the time and place, to kind of like put certain things in certain areas, because I run the 2 Chainz Instagram and some of the social media stuff, just the same as how me and you bounce around and share the social media for that Scale RC show. Well, then I also have my Dean Designs RC, which is more of my personal builds and stuff that's not so much 2 Chainz related. And that's why a lot of times you'll see me talking about Cow RC products, because I don't think a lot of people know that I'm sponsored by Cow RC, which could be a whole different, story. But that was a company, kind of like you said, I was using the product, and I was really only using one product, and it was the Udder Butter, and I was really interested in the mats. And then a buddy of mine, who was already sponsored by them, reached out and said, "Hey, these guys, are cool guys. They do big things for the hobby." Um, you know, and I said, "Yeah, I want to pursue it. Like, I'll make it work. Even though we're not making it work as Two Chains, I want to make it work personally for me because it's a product that I already use, that I stand behind, and I like. So it's gonna be a slam dunk. I use it. The only hard part is I fall in a gray area with that one because they sponsor a lot of racers. I'm not a racer, but I make it. I
Right.
make it work. That's why I try to push the stuff out there. That's why I try to show the stuff. You know. So I know it sounds.
Yeah, you're not a racer, but you're a builder, and so
Yeah.
that's different. And that's what I was saying before is, you're unless you have a massive social media following or you're like doing big things like a builder wise or have a business in the industry. Unless you're doing those things, it's hard to get sponsored. So you've got your own builds and whatnot, and then all the Two Chain stuff. So it all works out really nice that way.
Mhm. So, yeah, like I said, so there's a lot of different ways you can, you know, make it work. So those are just some examples that I know I have, from doing this for as long as I've been doing it. I mean, it's actually kind of like crazy when you sit back and think about it. It's like you're like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, for a long time, and then I really think about it, because I don't know if we did this in our first episode, you'd have to remind me. Um, when we first got into RC, I got my first scaler, which was an SCX 10, back when you could actually, it was a kit, back when the kit had mixed matched screws. Some of them were still Phillips heads, and some of them were hex.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was in 2010. I picked that rig up, and then 2000. So from 2010 to 2012, it was more like I would just play with the car, when we go, up to up to where my parents' cabin is in Twain Hart, or like if me and Michelle went up to Tahoe or wherever, we just bring the car, we'd mess around. It was nothing like I didn't know that there was all of this until I joined RC Crawler, and then I started noticing from RC Crawler, which I'm sure that we have some listeners that are like, "What's RC Crawler?"
Yeah.
RC Crawler used to be a big forum for RC crawling, and that's actually where I mean, I remember the days, and this was closer to end of 2012, beginning of 2013, when I first started getting into it, like really big, and going to a lot of events. That's where you found out what events there were. You go into the regional page, and you'd like punch in where you're from, like California or the West Coast or East Coast, or whatever, and you'd find your area, and people would list events that are going on, and then you'd actually find that thread, and you'd have to like comment on it. Like that was how you stayed in touch. Nowadays, I think it was in like 2014. I want to say 2014 or 2015 when Facebook just took over everything, and
Yeah.
everybody basically abandoned RC Crawler and went straight to Facebook, and so it's just funny to see how everything's changed in that many years.
Yeah, I got into it late. I missed all the forums and stuff. I was never a really big fan of forums. I mean, probably even less so than I am a fan of Facebook. But like I don't know. The forum that we had for racing was called RC Tech, and it was just terrible. So I didn't really enjoy using forums from those experiences.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I mean, this could be a whole nother conversation, I think. Maybe not. It might be short lived. I think the days of forums are kind of actually going downhill as far as even with, you know, um, like other stuff, like truck forums or car forums or motocross forums, dirt bike forums, skateboard forums, whatever it may be. I think they're going down because a lot of people get their information from Google and YouTube versus you know, going on these forums where people actually, that's what it was for, was to discuss this and bounce ideas off, you know, and have like an
Right.
open,
Now it's. Oh, go
no, I
ahead.
was just
Sorry.
saying have open dialogue about, you know, problems that find or whatever.
Yeah, and that's all been pretty much replaced now with like groups and pages on Facebook.
Exactly. So it's just kind of crazy to see like, you know, how everything's changed. And then even just like watching the level of, you know, really what these cars were and to what they are now. Like
Mm-hmm.
that portion blows my mind because
Yeah.
I remember like my first rig. I remember showing up to an event because, like I said, I knew nothing. So it was a bone stock SCX10 kit with a Chevy body on it. I showed up to this comp. And I remember, or not comp, I call it comp, but it was a scale endurance. And I remember that like one person was like, they saw me. I kept flipping over, and they were like looking, and they're like, "Man, why doesn't your car crawl up these things that well?" And I'm like, "Oh, you know, like I just, you know, I don't know, I don't know. I'm new to this." And then when they saw where my battery was, they're like, "Oh, your battery shouldn't be in the back of the car; it should be in the front of the car. It needs to be here so that way you got better." And then that's when really it was like that was the days where you basically bought a car to rebuild it to work perfectly, and then go out and have fun. Now
Right.
you get a car that just works, and you really don't have to do anything to it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Which I don't know. I enjoy kits and RTRs both. You know,
Mhm.
I don't. I think if I had more free time, I'd enjoy building kits, but I don't. So I don't know. I mean, anymore, a lot of the RTRs are so good, anyways. You know.
that's yeah.
I mean, really good. So, I mean, aside from replacing stuff that either I know may fail or replacing it with the brands that I deal with, you know, that's really, you know, about it. I really have no issue with building, you know, building off of an RTR platform rather than doing a kit. But yeah, I don't know. You know, you always get the blowhards and stuff on Facebook like, I build kits, you know, I'm a true hobbyist, blah, 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 you know, and it's like, whatever. I mean, it's all perspective, man. You know, what do you have time for in your life and whatnot? And then you kind of go from there. I mean, really, it's the nice thing about Scale RC is it's 100% what you make of it, you know. So I mean, if you want to be the guy that just does a couple upgrades to an RTR and that's it, you know, you don't fabricate stuff or anything, you know. Like if that's your thing, then that's cool, man. Like you shouldn't be, you know, people ganging up on you over something like that, you know. That isn't right. So I mean, it's just what you want out of it, you know. That's entirely what the hobby revolves around.
Oh, exactly.
Because I mean, there's a lot of guys with scratch builds that probably just laugh at the stuff that, you know, myself or anyone else does, you know, because they're full on making bodies from nothing, you know. So I mean, there's so many different levels and extremes to the sport to be, or excuse me, to the hobby to be considered a builder. You know,
Yeah.
you can be a builder and you're a scratch builder. You can be a builder where you're just basically selecting the parts that you want to put on a rig. And really, you know, it's like you can't fault either because, you know, there is actually like a lot of personal preference and like classiness and taste to what you can do with just buying products and throwing them on by just getting the right combination of things to make your rig look the way it is. You don't necessarily have to make everything from scratch either, you know. So I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's luckily you don't see a whole lot of arguments back and forth with that sort of thing, which is nice. But you know, I mean, just like I said, just make it what you want it to be for your own personal situation and the amount of time and money you have dedicated to it, and go have fun. You know, if people are gonna get after you and be jerks online or whatever, you know, because you do a certain thing, then you know that's not really cool either. You know, I mean, there needs to be a lot more encouragement out there than bashing on people for doing what they like to do. It's like, you know, just want to tell people just like, shh, let people enjoy stuff. You know, like
Exactly.
let them do what they want. If their idea of their ultimate rig is a RTR with tires and wheels and they're pumped on it, cool. Like that's awesome. Great.
Yeah, and I mean, and how many times we see that the first thing when somebody releases a new rig, or not even it might not even be a new rig, it just might have a new body. Oh, have fun with the steering servo. Oh, have fun with this ESC. Mine fried after one run and did it. And it's like you get all the negative Nancy's, and then that actually
Right.
that actually discourages people because now they're kind of like, well, maybe I won't buy this because if that's falling apart, and then you actually steer them into a wrong direction. They go and buy something that's completely like the opposite.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah, you say something sucks on a stock, on a RTR or whatever, and so immediately the person either runs out and buys a bunch of energy parts because they think they need them and just go aluminum everything, or they do the worst possible thing and just not buy something to begin with.
exactly, and or they go, oh, they hear that you have to change this on this axial rig, or oh, people have said this is broken on their Traxxas, or this is broken on whatever it is, and now you get these people going, well, okay, well, I don't have to go through that, so maybe I'll go with this brand, and then they buy brand X, which really doesn't have any upgrade, aftermarket support, and now you've completely pushed them into a direction where they got something that when it breaks, you're like, dude, there's no parts for this.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not trying to cut those companies down, but I mean, I hear it when I'm at the local hobby shop all the time. You got somebody that comes in, hey, I'm trying to get into this, or I want to get my son into this. This is my budget. But I'm looking, and sometimes you got to be just be honest with them straight up, and they usually can get their own opinion from there. If you say,
Right.
like this one guy came in and said, yeah, I'm really not trying to spend more than $250. It's like, well, for that budget, you're really not going to get anything, in my opinion, worth buying. But I said, you buy whatever you want. It's at the end, it's your money, it's your vehicle. And he wanted to get kind of like a go fast basher car, so he was looking at, I forget what he was looking at. And I said, honestly, I told him, I said, I'm not a big basher guy, but if I was one, I wouldn't go with that ECX. I said I would go with Arma or Traxxas because they have pop-up parts. There's bigger companies that back them.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to repair those because when you buy these other companies that don't have the aftermarket support, when you break it, you're going to have a hard time fixing it. And then it's no fun.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we had some guys in our club fall into that same exact scenario. They had bought some, I forget the brand of it. It's through Tower Hobby, so it's called a Hammerjaw. It's a 2.2 kind of twin vertical plate.
Okay.
Old school type crawler with a little body thrown on it, and same thing as an off-brand, and it took a long time just to get an axle that had broken. So that's something people have to keep in mind is parts availability when you're going to choose something.
Yeah, and sometimes, like I said, you might have to pay a little more up front, to get a solid rig, but in the end, it's going to be worth it. Like I said, that could be a whole nother segment.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I know we're getting close to our.
Yeah, I was watching the clock here. We got that interview that I got to insert, and we're at an hour and a half now. So
yeah, so we'll probably wrap it up and then continue this on another one. But like you said, it's just it's availability. So don't be, if you go out, buy something you think you're saving money, in the long run, you're kind of not, because if you spent $150 on a rig that's got no aftermarket support, you break this part and you can't really get a replacement part for it. Well, now you're out that whole $150 because either A, you're going to have to get creative and find something that works, or B, buy another whole new platform to start over.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, we can probably go into that because I got stories about that. We'll go into that on another episode.
Oh yeah, no, and that's a really good topic to cover. With what brands you should consider and what brands maybe you should shy away from, and it's not because of personal preference or anything like that. It's just some more common sense issues. So we can absolutely go over that. In fact, I think that'd be a really helpful topic. So
yeah,
yeah, maybe we should open with that next one.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll open out the next one, and we'll probably try and get.
Cool.
Hopefully, we can get some more people engaged on our Facebook page. Let us know about brands that you like. You think are brands that have a good following, not following, but like I guess you could say following, but also like good
Yeah.
aftermarket support. One's worth like mentioning. And then what brands have you had bad experiences with? And if you want to be polite, you don't even have to say the brand. Just if you want to share your experience, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's good. I think it would be cool to get a lot more engagement from our audience and posting pictures and stuff. I know I'm going to try and be better about sharing photos and video and whatnot on the page for the podcast as well. To just try and get some more interaction. Now, I couldn't believe the amount of people that were reached with the photos just from King Crawlers from this last weekend. I couldn't believe 10,000 and something. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I think a lot of that
So
has to do with the
that's good.
epicness of that shop setup.
Yeah, exactly. Which is cool because I told Howard, the owner of the place, I was like, I really want to share this with the rest of the community and really, show everybody what you're doing here because it's pretty awesome. And I know in the Pacific Northwest, there's nothing like it. So that's definitely, something that's cool. So yeah, I mean, if you guys have awesome shops that are doing something new and different, or questions, comments, event news. If you got an event coming up, let us know about it. We'll get it on the air. Same with products. If you have a business and there's a product you just came out with that you feel is, revolutionary or, deserves some mention, then hit us up with that too. And, we'll get it discussed and let the world know about it. So
Exactly.
aside from that, I mean, yeah, I that pretty much covered everything for me. You have anything else you want to close with at all?
No, that's really about it. Most of the events have stayed the same. I've shared them to our page on that Scale RC show on Facebook, so you can find those events. Maybe I'll pin them back up to the top because I know they're a couple months out. Some are a couple weeks. I think I'm going to that March of Dimes one on Saturday, so
Oh, cool.
yeah, so I should be there. So I'll try and get some pictures of that.
Yeah,
And I think that's
sounds
it.
good.
So
Cool. Well, everybody, enjoy the rest of your week, and hopefully you can get out and hit some trails this weekend and have some fun and let us know all about it.
exactly. So have fun out there, stay safe, and we will see you guys next week.